Senator Baldwin.
Thank you. Good morning, Secretary. It is good to see you. And a few weeks ago, I know you were in the state of Wisconsin visiting Coloma and highlighting rural investments from the bipartisan infrastructure law and our ongoing work to support the engineering and road building workforce. I'm also really pleased to know that you were able to spend the day with high schoolers who were eager to learn about careers in the construction trades, so it's marvelous. When you came before us back in January of 2021, I asked you about Buy America waivers for manufactured goods. This waiver has been in place for over 40 years. And that's despite the clear intention of Congress to require that federal dollars only buy American-made manufactured goods. As you know, I pushed to include strong Buy America requirements in the bipartisan infrastructure law. And this gave agencies 6 months to put procedures in place for full implementation by May 14th. However, last week, the department announced that it intends to seek a waiver of Buy America requirements to purchase American-made construction materials for 180 days. Given the history with perpetual waivers at DOT, I'm concerned by this waiver and would like your assurance that DOT intends to fulfill its Buy America requirements promptly and fully.
So we are committed to delivering on the intent of the Buy America provisions in the law. We recognize how important it is to the country and certainly to states like Wisconsin and to areas like my industrial Midwestern hometown. On April 28th, we posted for public comment the proposed temporary public interest waiver to provide recipients of DOT funding and their vendors what's intended to be a reasonable adjustment period. And that is open for comment through May 13th. But let me just back up and state philosophically, we view waivers not as an alternative to increasing domestic production, but only as a tool for allowing us to get on the right path. We certainly don't envision them as perpetual. We recognize that capacity has to be built, and so in order to deliver on these projects, some early flexibility may be needed, but we also recognize how important it is to balance that with serious requirements and clear demand signals that as soon as that capacity can be stood up domestically, it needs to be used rather than foreign sources.
Thank you. The bipartisan infrastructure law also contains historic investments in our nation's roads and bridges, and it allows us to ensure that those investments support infrastructure that is better able to withstand extreme weather and the effects of climate change. Secretary, the new law incorporates bipartisan legislation that I introduced called the Rebuilding Stronger Infrastructure Act, which will enable states to use emergency highway funding to rebuild infrastructure that is more resilient, that can withstand the next flood, the next storm. Can you implementation of that provision?
So the law, as you mentioned, requires several updates to the emergency relief program, including one to include resilience in the ER manual. I can tell you that there's a comprehensive update underway with Federal Highway to the manual, which will include these requirements. It's a big undertaking, but we are hard at work on delivering that. As you indicated, there is an increasing need to recognize when these funds go out that it makes little sense to have the asset be equally vulnerable after the spending as it was before, only to have potential further damage take place. So we recognize the importance of this provision in the law, and we're working as promptly as we can to deliver on it.
That's good. I'd also like to give you the opportunity to highlight the investments that are included in your fiscal year 23 budget request that also support stronger, more resilient infrastructure.
Yes, thank you. There are $7.3 billion in formula funding under PROTECT and $1.4 billion in competitive grants over 5 years for this, and our budget request reflects our desire to get those dollars moving. We need to support communities that already know often where the greatest resilience needs are, but haven't had dedicated funding to help them address that. And we're looking forward to working with project sponsors and with state, local, and tribal transportation authorities to get these dollars aligned in the right way to make that transportation infrastructure resilient for the future.
Thank you. No one saw it, but the gavel magically moved to me, and so I would like to now recognize Senator